In this video, I want to create a Python program that can take a week input and turn that into years and months. To start with, I want to create the function, which I'll then call afterwards, which will take an input. First, I can take the week input and divide that by 52 and then round that down to see how many years will it take. And there's two ways to do this. I can say int and then the week input, divide that by 52. So this will be a normal division and then I'll round that down. So if this is 49, it will be 0, comma something, which is then rounded down to 0 because of the integer function. I can also use the double slashes, which is what I'll do afterwards. But I want to show that you can do it this way too. Then I want to take the remaining weeks, which will then be the week input minus the whole years times 52. So how many weeks do I have left after converting weeks into years? I then need to take into account, well, what if the number of weeks is 49, 50, or 51? Because then I want to round it up to 12 months, or actually 1 year, which I can do by asking if 49 is less than or equal to my remaining weeks, or if remaining weeks is less than or equal to 51. And I don't have to check 52 because I already know that if I have 52 weeks, then whole years will be divisible by 52. So that's already taken care of. Then I need the colon to say that if this check is true, then I want to set my remaining weeks to be equal to 0, because then I want to instead round whole years up by 1. So that should be equal to itself plus 1. So now I've checked whether I should have years or not, and I have remaining weeks left over. I then want to convert remaining weeks into months, and I want to round up. So if I have 3 weeks, I want to round that up to 1 month, because that means I will complete the project during that month. So this is a stylistic choice, so to say. So I want another variable where I want to convert remaining weeks into months, and I'm going to assume that all months have 4 weeks, which isn't exactly true, but it's accurate enough. Since I want to always round up, I can either import the math library, and then I can use math.ceiling in order to always round up, but I don't want to import a library if I don't have to, and I only need it for one thing. So I would rather use a hack that I got from Stack Overflow, from this thread, from Bill Lynch, where basically the way that Python works, as it's written here, when you do integer division like I did here with whole years, I don't actually round the number towards 0, I round it towards negative infinity. So if I have 0.9 and I round that using the integer function, I'm moving it closer to 0, and 0 is closer to 0 than 1, so 0.9 becomes 0. But if I have negative 0.9, if I round that using the integer function, it won't be rounded up to 0, which is what I thought. It will actually be rounded down towards -1, because -1 is more negative than 0. And I can use this as sort of a hack to convert my remaining weeks into a negative number and then round it and then convert it back into a positive number. So I can say my variable here, whole month, should be equal to the minus version of remaining weeks, which I then want to do integer division by 4. And this is the symbol again. So I want to first say remaining weeks, divide that by 4, and then I actually want it to be minus, so it's rounded towards negative infinity, so more negative. So if my remaining weeks would be 37, and I then take the negative of that, it would be minus 37, integer division by 4. Normal division would then be minus 9.25, and then because this is integer division, and I'm rounding towards negative infinity, that minus 9.25 becomes minus 10, and then I multiply that by minus to get positive. So we can actually check this quickly. If I just say print, then I want to use my function, and I want to pass in 37. And then it would help if I included the return statement. So right now I actually just want to return whole months, just to showcase. So that would be 10, which is what I want it to be. So that's perfectly fine. At this point, I can already create my text string because I've already taken care of this edge case where I wanted to round up to 1 year. So I want to create my output string, which is what I'll actually be returning. Then I first want to make sure that if the number of years is 0, then I don't do anything. So I can check that. If whole years is greater than 0, I want to do something, and otherwise I want to do nothing. And I'm just going to include this else block just to make it more clear. And I want to say my output string should then be equal to what it currently is, but I want to add, first converting my whole years into string, because right now it's a number. And then I want to add the text year. After this, I want to check if I have multiple years, so greater than 1, And in that case, I want to add the plural s. And I can do that in one line by saying my output string should be equal to itself plus space and space if my whole years is exactly equal to 1. Otherwise, I want to add that s. So now I've added years to my output string, and I then want to add months. And I'm choosing to say that if I have 0 months, then I still want to add that and 0 months, because I think if you write it's estimated to take 1 year, that seems kind of daunting. It would leave me feeling like I don't have the full picture, because you only said 1 years, okay, but how many months then? I would personally want to hear 1 year and 0 months instead of just 1 year. Again, that's a stylistic choice. I want output string to be equal to itself, and actually I don't have to write that. I could say plus equals. And then I want to convert whole months into a string and add the and month. And again, right after that, I want to check if there are multiple months. Actually, no, I want to check if it's equal to 1, as I did up here, because if you have 0 months, that's not how you say it. You say 0 months, plural. So once again, I do the if statement in one line, saying I want output string to be equal to itself, plus a stop, if whole months is equal to 1. Otherwise, I want to add the plural s. When I do an if statement on one line, I don't think I can use the plus equal operator, because I have to say, well, what should output string be equal to? And it should be equal to this. And actually that is everything I need to do, for the function at least. I just have to say I want to output my output string. Now we can check the whole thing. Say 10 months, okay, that's fine. And then taking the edge case of 50, which is then wrong. I just want to check 3 also to see if that's fine. And then I can go back to figure out what I did wrong.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live.
I can show what happens here, and it's a case of Python really liking indentation. It actually has a meaning, because if I go down here, checking where the week input is 49, well, this is all fine. I have my output string, the project is estimated to take, and then it becomes 1 year, so this is fine. But everything here is actually inside of my else statement, so it doesn't output anything, meaning my function doesn't output anything, because the output has been indented. So I need to do this and say that, well, actually, I want this to run no matter what. It's just that if whole years is equal to 0, then I don't want to do anything. Then I can repeat this and show that now it should work. And this is, of course, done live. So now the project is estimated to take 1 year, which is what I want. And then 0 months. And then because 0 isn't 1, it adds the plural s. And then everything is fine and dandy. And that is what I want. So now we can run it just a few more times to see again. 3 is fine. That gets rounded up to 1. And 44 is fine. That gets rounded up. And 49 again. 1 year and 0 months. And 52. So if it's exactly divisible by 52, that's also fine. And then just one big number.
Bruh.
So that is also broken. So that's the pleasures of testing live. Here the problem is then that if I have more than 0 years, I'm actually messing up my output string here. And I said here that output string should just be equal to the plural s and, but I need to actually say, well, it should be equal to itself plus the plural s. So now the project is estimated to take 2 years. That part won't be overwritten. It will be set equal to its current value and then adding the s. And then I actually need to restart it to show it. So now we add the plural s and a space and that's fine and dandy. It was a good idea to check a week value that would be more than 1 year. So just for fun's sake, let's put in a very large number. And that is probably correct. You are very optimistic if you think you can plan that far ahead. But that should be almost everything. Right now this isn't fully done because this is of course a fixed value. So this needs to be a variable. And then also I need to make sure that the command prompt doesn't close, because if you open this like a normal file, the instant this is printed, well, the program is done, so it should close. But I can now say that we want, let's just say A, and that should be equal to an input, where I just ask you to enter how many weeks you think the project is going to take. And I'm not going to do any kind of error handling, like if you add in a negative number or 0 or something that isn't a number, because then this part will crash, because you can't do division with text. And actually that also means I need to add that here to do my conversion, because input will always be a text, so you always need to convert it into a number before I can use it. And then I can print the value, so this would print it. Actually, I need to change that to A then. Now I can say 49. I need to actually be able to grab this and use it. So one option would be to do import Pyperclip and then say, well, I want you to use the copy function to copy the output here. So I'm not going to use this actually, so I'll just do like so. So now that text has been copied into my clipboard. The downside of this method is that, well, now I need to import a library, and maybe you have IT restrictions. That means you can't do it. So it's not my preferable method. Alternatively, you could do Pyautogui, and I think that is pyautogui.press. And then you could, type it in, text, inside of whatever window you're currently in. But it would print that inside of your command prompt, so you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to do something like sending the hotkey, I think it is. Actually don't remember how you do it, something like that. So you do an alt tab into another window and then type it. But then you need to, for instance, if you're writing an email, you need to make sure that that window that you want to type the value in is also the one you'll alt tab into. I wouldn't want to use that method. I just want to use a method where you do a equals input and then not input anything, because when I then run this, let's just close this and then run a new window and say, well, this input is actually waiting for me to do something. So I can copy this text and then just hit enter and it will close. And then I can show that right after. So now that I have my weak converter here, if I run that like a normal Python file, I get my pop-up like here. And then I can do like normal input 49, highlight this, copy it, and now I have my text in my clipboard. And then it's just enter, and this closes, and then I can just type it in like normal. So that will be my preferred method because you don't have to import anything. That's why I wanted to do this workaround to make the number always round down towards negative infinity. Now I don't have to import anything. It's just pure Python, so there's no safety problems. So, yep,